Hey there, Scott Cawson with Forefront Web. We had a little bit of a perfect storm here where I wrote a new blog article, and at the exact same time, our digital marketing director mentioned that we need more video. So here I am. This is the first time for me. Be kind. So, with that, let me give you a little backstory. So, I was speaking with a friend of mine who was a small business owner, and he had received a quote from a marketing agency for $300 a month to do all his SEO. And he came to me and said, hey, in your opinion, is this a good deal? And so I kind of was going through with him all the different tactics that are available for digital marketing and what the costs are associated with each one. So felt like, it kind of makes sense for me to go ahead and write an article for everyone. And so here it is. This is the article I wrote about how much you should pay. And the whole point of this article was to be very transparent about pricing, or at least as transparent as I can be, and still give you a reasonable idea of what these services cost, because obviously every website is different, every need is different, and there are no cookie cutter solutions. I can't tell you exactly how much each service is going to cost unless I have a lot of insight into your website, your services, your products, and everything that you're doing. But short of that, the aim here is to give you some idea of what things are out there and how much you should be paying. Moving on, starting with that whole $300 a month. Well, I can tell you that $300 a month, not a huge budget. And with that sort of budget, if someone came to me and said, I have $300 a month, what's the biggest thing I can do? Well, if you haven't had your directories updated, your directory listings updated, then that's a really, really, really good starting point. So in the case of my buddy, brand new website, never had one before, directory listings, probably a good way to go. So you'll hear this called a few different things. There are local directories, citations, NAP, name, address, photo. There's different ways to describe it. Basically what it is just going out to all the directories that exist on the internet, as many as you can find, and making sure that you have a listing and that listing is updated with all the correct info. And what you're seeing on your screen is just an example. Let me make my fat head a little smaller here. There we go. So this is just some of the bigger directories that are out there that you can get listed on. And as you check this, if you've never done it before, you'll find, gosh, some of the listings will have outdated addresses and hours and all that sort of thing, and some of them you may not even be a part of and probably should be. And let me just be clear that this is a small fraction of the directories that are out there. There's literally thousands of directories. Many of them you don't need to be a part of. They're too small and Google sort of ignores them, but definitely should be in all of the major directories as well as the ones that are specific to your product or service. Another quick note, there are aggregators out there, that the Yellow Pages aggregator, so that once you get into that directory, it disseminates your information to a number of other directories. So the problem is it's hard to get into the aggregators. You either have to pay for software to do that or pay an agency that has software that does it. So just be aware of that. But if we jump over to what that should run you, you look down here at the bottom of the screen, that falls right within that plan that my buddy was quoted of $150 to $300, in his case, $300 a month. Why are you paying someone monthly for this? Well, there is a lot of manual work involved. Automation can only take you so far. Even if you buy the software, you're still going to wind up going back and filling in some information and doing some manual work. And then just keeping on top of it, so it's a monthly monitoring, and that's how you get to the monthly cost. All right, moving on from local directories, let's talk a little bit of on-page optimization. So quite simply, on-page optimization is everything you can do on your physical website that's going to make it a flytrap for Google as well as people. And if we jump over here to our friends at SEMrush, they have a real nice listing. We'll be talking about off-page SEO a little bit later, but their listing here on on-page SEO encompasses most of the things that you can get into. So keeping your site content updated, your meta descriptions, making sure that the content on the page is matching what people are searching for and appealing to them. And there's a whole other wing that's not listed on here called technical SEO that actually encompasses a few of the things that are listed here: page speed, schema markup, those sorts of things. And technical SEO could exist in its own category. It's a rabbit hole that you can really go nuts with. But for the most part, on-page SEO. Now, here's a downside that I'm seeing out there is that you'll have people that, like when we build a website, we build it with good SEO practices, whether or not we're doing a full SEO campaign. As long as we're adding content, might as well add that content around search phrases that'll help the client. They do it up front. They do it when the site is launched, and then they never optimize their site again. And so over time, you've got the intern that added the huge photos that were never optimized. You've got people that have added content that isn't optimized for highlighting keywords and that sort of thing. And over time, you wind up with a site that can get bloated and slow and all those other things, and nobody really thinks to do on-page optimization again. So it is something that you should revisit from time to time and make sure that you're still tracking for the phrases that you want to go after. Keyword discovery is another thing that at launch, these 10 phrases might have been the hot phrases to get you to the top of the heap. Those phrases change over time. So keyword discovery needs to be repeated on a regular basis. What are we looking at in terms of on-page optimization? So it's hard to nail down and just say, well, you should pay $1,500 one time for on-page optimization, because it really just depends on how many pages you have and how many pages need to be updated. So if you allow for roughly an hour to an hour and a half per page, depending on the agency rate, you're probably looking somewhere from $150 to $200 an hour. So it takes about an hour per page. So an easy back of envelope thing is to say, well, I've got 30 pages, so 30 times whatever my agency rate is, that's how much it's going to cost you. I will tell you that it's definitely well worth it. Moving on from on-page, UI UX, one of my absolute favorites. So UI, user experience, user interface. So this is something that's so vital because it's one of the very few things that we do that actually puts the human being first. A lot of UI UX is done to make the site appealing to physical people who are looking at it. So it's making that experience smoother, making the navigation intuitive, making that user interface, the color theory, and all the things that cause a person to go to a website, and when they get done looking at that website, hey, that website really hit me. It made me feel good. That's typically the kind of things that we hear after somebody has been on a site with very, very good UI UX. Our friends at Figma boil it down into 4 different key things, everything from page layout to how the site interacts and color choice and things like that. And what I will say is probably one of the most significant things about UI and UX is the fact that you get your people immersed and you see longer times on page when you see sites with good UI and UX. And A/B testing is another one of the obvious things. If you're familiar with A/B testing, multivariate testing, it's we've got a blue button with a call to action that says click me. All right, let's try that with a green button where it says contact us today. And so you do a test where half the visitors see one button and the other half see the other button, and then you check and see which button had the best performance. Now, caveat there is you have to make sure that your site gets plenty of traffic. If you're only getting 400, 500, 1,000 people a month, it's really hard to draw any strong conclusions out of tests like that. But if you do have a site that is well trafficked, A/B testing is a great way to determine what your people are responding to. UI and UX, very similar to on-page optimization, where it's more of a how many pages do you need to optimize. And it does take someone with a little more experience to do UI UX. So that's why you see the $200 a page. It takes about the same time, 45 minutes to an hour and a half to 2 hours per page, depending, again, how in-depth you get with it. But if you allotted roughly $200 per page, you're going to be somewhere in the ballpark, or you should be. Paid search. Oh, boy. Yeah, paid search. I mean, by now, everybody knows what paid search is. How do we price out paid search? How does an agency charge for paid search? Well, the biggest thing is that amount of ad spend. If you're spending $1,000 a month, obviously it's a big difference from somebody that's spending $10,000 a month. Most agencies will charge some sort of fee based on the spend, and you'll see that fee range from anywhere from 10% to 20%, again, depending on how much you're spending. There are other factors at play here, how many campaigns you're on, how many ads you're actually running. You know, if you're on 3 different platforms and you're running 8 different ads on each platform, obviously that's going to drive your costs up. So you can see not only the percentage of the ad spend, but also a management fee for creation, so creative fee and that kind of thing. But if you see that, it should be spelled out. It's usually not wrapped up into the management fee. Again, if you're running a lot of ads and have a lot of reporting parameters and things like that, it's not uncommon to see not only a percentage fee, but also a few hours of work each month to make sure that the analyst has enough time to create the ads, analyze the ads, and tweak the program and those sorts of things. So paid search, while I hate just giving you a percentage of the spend, but that's what goes into the cost when we price it out. Backlinking, one of my all-time favorites. Backlinking, links on other websites out in the free world that link to your website, right? Easiest way, get that done, is to just simply pay somebody for a link on their website, or, hey, I've got this article, and if you put it on your website with my links in place, I'll give you X amount of money. Now, be careful. When you do that, you're in direct violation of Google spam policies. So be aware of that. Generally, if you write a quality article, and yes, you pay somebody to put that article out there, it's going to be overlooked. But when you pay somebody on Fiverr $200-300 to get 100 backlinks, that's probably going to flag Google. Now, there's free ways to get this done. So exchanging links with somebody. Hey, you put a link on your site, I'll put a link on my site. Typically is free. Pitching your idea to a PR agency or to a PR outlet or to reporters, generally you can get that done. It takes a little more time, but if your story gets picked up, generally that's going to be picked up for free. Influencers are also out there. Another way to get backlinks, especially on social media, is to either send your product to an influencer or just flat out pay an influencer to say nice things about you. These are all ways of getting backlinks. So a lot of different ways to get backlinks, ranging from free to who knows, because I don't know what Wall Street Journal charges to place an ad or place an article or a link, but I know it can be done. And I've seen backlinking prices anywhere from $2,500. I've seen it as high as $5,000-6,000 for a backlink. So it's out there. It can be done. It's typically done via an agency. And average price, $300 to $500 for a site with decent domain authority and decent traffic. But this is one of those things I don't recommend doing without an agency, because there are some other things beyond just price and notoriety to look at. And an agency is going to make sure that you don't make Google mad. So anyway, that's a little bit about backlinking pricing. And where do we go from here? Social media management. So not going to spend a whole lot of time on this, because a lot of companies have internal people that are doing their social media, which is fine. One of the things that I see is a disconnect between the SEO outreach and what the social media people are doing. Really like to see those things work in conjunction. So if this is the key phrase that we're going after, or a group of phrases or cluster of topics, I want to make sure that's being supported by the social media outreach. And so potential benefit of having an agency work on all of it is that it can be more of a coordinated approach. But all that aside, what does it cost? Dependent, how many platforms you're on, how many posts per week, what type of ads, are they video ads, are they static, are they simple text? All those factors go in, and this is probably the widest range I'm going to give you in this article, but you can see it there, $1,000 to $10,000 is a range. Typically what we see is somewhere in the neighborhood of $1,500 a month for a smaller campaign to $3,000 or $4,000 a month for a little more complex campaign that includes some video and includes some cross-platform and things like that. So that's what you can expect when it comes to social media. Now, content marketing, which technically it falls under the category of on-page optimization, but it's a big enough thing that I felt it was important to break it out. So content marketing, especially now in the day and age of AI, and I can go real deep on that, but content marketing is huge. Make sure that you are putting blog articles out there. Make sure that you are doing some social media and getting some content out there. And it's not a one and done. It's not something that you do when you launch the website and then forget about it. It's something that you have to work on. It's a great way to get those long tail searches, get attention for those. Put an article out there, a blog article. Google is paying so much attention to this right now. that I just can't emphasize. And it's not just the blog, it's going back through your own content that's on your site and realizing that it's not just something that's static. You've got to keep in mind that keywords change over time. The phrases that people are looking for, it changes, and you've got to stay ahead of that and make sure that your website is still speaking to the people that you want it to speak to. What's content marketing going to run you? Well, obviously it's another one of those things where it depends on the number of pages that you have. But if you're just doing a blog campaign and paying someone to get fresh content on your website on a regular basis, you can absolutely expect to spend $1,500 to $3,000 or more, again depending on for a medium range, for a small to medium range small business site. That's a range that'll get the job done, and you'll pay off with your search engine rankings. Moving down the line, very closely related, email marketing. Email marketing is still one of the most cost-efficient ways to get your brand out in front of people and stay in front. Now, the problem with it is that we're all suffering from stuffed inboxes. So you got to be real careful about the messaging that you put out there. Make it vital, make it important, make it a valuable resource to your clients, and that's when they don't unsubscribe. And if you hit them too often, if you hit them too much a sales message, you'll see those unsubscribes go, and you'll see it right away. So it's always easy to see if your email marketing is hitting or not, just simply by looking at the number of people that unsubscribe every time you send something out. Email newsletters are a great thing. They're a great way to get in front of people. Looks like we're at the bottom of the list, so we can go down to this thing, and there we see it also. What would it cost? Again, I'm going to talk about the dependencies. How many email newsletter templates are you putting out there? How much work are we creating the content? Are you providing the content? $500 for a small once-a-month email newsletter. $2,500 for a robust campaign where there's drip campaigns and people analyzing and everything else, and then $4,500 or more depending on the size of your company. So, and with that, I've actually covered all the topics. Went faster than I thought it would. And but again, to kind of bring it full circle, it's all of these techniques are things that do we approach every single success plan, which is what we call our digital marketing plan. So do we approach every single one with the same mentality? Absolutely not. It's different per industry. It's different per audience. It's different depending on the size of site and what you're going after and the phrases and everything else. Make sure that you're with an agency that understands your needs, understands your budgets, and works within your budget, and doesn't spread you so thin by using a little bit of everything and throwing it all against the wall and hoping something sticks. You've got to work with an agency that understands your business, that understands how to reach the people you're trying to reach, and will come up with that perfect mix of tactics to best approach those people and get visitors to your site, and most importantly, get those conversions. Thanks for listening, and have a good day.